Greetings from the English Literature YouTube channel. It is a one-stop destination to soothe all your literary curiosities. In this video, we'll study important prose writers of pre-independence era. So let's begin. Beginnings of Indian English writing are not fully documented. For a long, it has been considered that account of the Jains written by Kevali Venkata Burya was the first published work by an Indian in English. It was an essay of 28 pages, published in 1809. Kevali Venkata Burya was one of the greatest pioneers of Indo-Anglian writings. Here, Indo-Anglian is different from the Anglo-Indian writings. The former is a genre written and created by the Indians through the English language, and the latter is written by the Englishmen on themes and subjects related to India. M.K. Naik, a scholar of Indian literature in English, and K.R. Srinivasa Iyengar, an Indian writer in English and former Vice Chancellor of Andhra University, supported this view because the travels of Dean Muhammad had been forgotten. It is only in 1996 that a historian named Michael H. Fisher brought this work to light in his scholarly work, The First Indian Author in English, Dean Muhammad, in India, Ireland, and England, has chronicled the life of this unknown Indian, tracing his later life as the first Indian entrepreneur in England and the role of his wife Jane played in furthering his business of running a coffee house and later a medicinal bath. But it is difficult to correctly place Muhammad's work in the tradition of Indian English writing. He is chronologically the first, but we do not know whether later writers like Rajaram Mohan Roy were aware of his work. The next writer is Rajaram Mohan Roy. So let's read about him. A Defense of Hindu Theism, written by him, is the first original publication in expository prose in the history of Indian writing in English. He was the greatest social, religious, and cultural reformer of the period. He was the son of a rich landlord, Ramkanto Roy, and studied Arabic and Persian at Patna, and Hindu theology and philosophy at Banaras. He knew many European languages and had read the Bible in Greek, Hebrew, and Latin. He was a polymath, a person with wide knowledge and learning. In 1828, he founded the Brahma Samaj, a reformist movement that fought for women's rights and leads a movement against sati. His articles about the practice of burning widow alive played a major role in framing legislation to ban this cruel custom. He wanted to modernize India and realized the importance of knowing English. He was one of the founders of the Hindu College of Calcutta. His letter on English education, addressed to the Governor General Lord Amherst in 1823, is a fine example of his prose style. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, who is also known as the father of Bengali novel. His work, Rajmohan's Wife, is the first Indian novel in English. Ramesh Chandra Dutt, a member of the Indian Civil Service, is remembered for his verse translations of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. He wrote novels in Bengali, two of which he translated into English, The Lake of Palms and The Slave Girl of Agra. He was the first Indian, the second now, that Dean Muhammad's work has come to light, to write a travelogue, 3 Years in Europe, 1869 to 1871, which was published in 1872. He was also the first to write literary history, the literature of Bengal. Now it's time to read Surendranath Banerjee, one of the founding members of the Indian National Congress and also the friend and contemporary of Ramesh Chandra Dutt, was a powerful orator. His speeches have been published as early as 1890. Swami Vivekananda. Here is the photograph of him. His parents gave him name Narendranath Datta, but at the age of 18, he became a disciple of the great mystic Ramakrishna Paramhamsa and took the name Vivekananda. After the death of his guru, Ramakrishna Paramhamsa, he founded the Ramakrishna Mission, an order of monks devoted to social reform. His speech at the Parliament of Religions at Chicago in 1893 brought him international fame. His complete works, the first volume of which appeared in 1907, primarily consists of speeches and lectures. He spoke of the spiritual uniqueness of India and the greatness of Hinduism, but he spoke even more forcefully about the current degradation of India, its causes, and its cure. His language has an astonishing modernity about it. The idiom is so fresh, it is difficult to believe that he spoke 100 years ago. He used simple diction and short sentences. His imagery was taken from day to day life, not art or literature. Rabindranath Tagore, one of the most popular writers of pre-independence era. He is the brightest star in the firmament of Bengali literature and culture. He was a poet, playwright, and novelist who won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1913. He composed hundreds of songs and was also a painter of merit. His autobiographical works in Bengali, My Boyhood Days and Reminiscences, are among his early works. Tagore's prose writings in English were primarily in the form of lectures, though his letter to Mahatma Gandhi, the Great Sentinel, is an outstanding composition, upholding the values of humanism in the midst of political turmoil. Sadhana, his first prose work in English, is based on lectures he gave on Indian philosophy at Harvard University. Of his many collections of lectures, nationalism is the most relevant today. He warns Japan and India against imitating the West. Tagore absorbed the best of ancient Indian thought and spirituality. He was passionately concerned with modern India, but he did not believe in narrow patriotism. His prose is characterized by deep thought, expressed in lucid or simple language. Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. Sri Aurobindo is better known as a seer and poet. He has written many volumes of prose writings based on philosophy, religion, and social issues. He has been called the inaugurator of modern Indian criticism because of the range and originality in his writing. Aurobindo Ghosh was sent to England for his school education at the age of 7 by his Anglophile father. Anglophile is a term used for a person who greatly admires England or Britain. He studied classical languages at Cambridge and got a first class first rank in his degree. He qualified for Indian civil service, obtaining record marks in Greek and Latin. He also learned French, German, Italian, and Spanish. He came back to India in 1893 and started teaching English at Maharaja's College in Baroda. He resigned his position when the British partitioned Bengal in 1905 and took an active part in the nationalist agitation. He was arrested in 1908 as a terrorist. His mystic experience at Alipur jail in 1909, he called it Narayana Darshan, made him give up politics. He settled down at the French enclave of Pondicherry and continued his yogic quest. He retired into seclusion, but continued his literary work. In addition to poetry, he wrote many poetic dramas and more than 50 volumes of prose, comprising essays, speeches, correspondence, and translations from Sanskrit. Sri Aurobindo's essay can be divided into three broad categories: religion, social issues, and literary criticism. His most famous works in the field of religion and spirituality are The Life Divine, The Synthesis of Yoga, and Heraclitus. Many of his essays on social issues first appeared in Arya, a monthly he founded in 1914. Books on social and cultural issues include The Renaissance in India and The Foundations of Indian Culture. His literary criticism appears in the future poetry and in letters. His critical approach is a synthesis of the best in Western and Sanskrit traditions of aesthetics. He is quite original in his assessment of individual poets. He recognized the achievement of Walt Whitman, calling him the most Homeric voice since Homer, long before the English academic establishment accepted him. Two other writers who have made important contributions to Indian literary criticism are Anand K. Kumaraswamy and M. Hiriyanna, author of Art Experience and other books on Indian philosophy. The early decades of the 20th century witnessed Indians using English very effectively in public speeches. Nationalist leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, and Mahadev Govind Ranade were great orators. Perhaps the greatest orator of the period was V.S. Srinivasa Shastri, a leader of the moderates. He was known as the silver-tongued orator of the empire. He also wrote several biographies, including Life and Times of Sir Firoz Shah Mehta and My Master Gokhale. Sarojini Naidu is known for her poetry, showed her mastery of prose in her speeches. Another leader of the Gandhian era, Sri Raja Gopal Chari or Rajaji, was an eloquent speaker. His simple prose versions of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata also reveal his mastery of English. But the most important leader and thinker of the era was Mahatma Gandhi, after whom this period has been named. In terms of literary merit, Jawaharlal Nehru was the greatest writer of this period, and most critics agree that his autobiography is the best work in the genre. So these were some of the important writers of pre-independence era. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. And yes, don't forget to support us by liking the video, share with your friends, and do subscribe for more such videos.